Well, welcome back. Rough as Guts Videos returns to your screen for Week 11 Graphical User Interfaces. This is the first in the series called Video Number 1, an introduction to GUIs, as we pronounce them, Graphical User Interfaces. So, as I'm sure you realise, the style of program that we've been writing so far through our course, using things like input and text box, simple text windows, pretty primitive. That's not how most modern programs work. Most programs look like the screen load here, where you've got things like tabs to select different bits in a window. We've got, over on the screen, we've got menus. We can move down and select menu items. We have potentially buttons like this. We can click to play the current program, and well, text boxes here that we can enter text into, and so on. These things are called graphical user interface elements or widgets. We'll come to that word in a minute. And that's how a modern application works. Of course, cell phones with a touch screen, same basic idea. You touch them instead of click on them, doesn't change the game. So this sort of program is said to be an event-driven program. Here's an example of a small bit of a screen that you may be familiar with. That's Microsoft PowerPoint, a very elaborate example of an event-driven program. So as you know, all the programs we've written so far look like what we call sequential programs, and there's an example over here on this screen: A equals 10, B equals 20, and so on. And the program controls a sequence of execution. It works step by step through the lines of the code, and every statement we execute modifies the state, or potentially modifies the state of the program. That's different from the event-driven style of programming, where we have a set of functions which are called for every user event, and the functions modify the state. Mostly the program is just sitting there doing nothing, waiting for the user to do something. So there's lots of graphical user interfaces around, lots of different ways of doing things, and I've mentioned 3 of them here. If you use Java, there's a GUI, graphical user interface, called Swing. There's one called WX Python, which runs on Windows, Linux, and Macs. And there's one called TK-Inter, which is the one we're going to use, which stands for the TK interface. But regardless of what you use, there's always at least 3 components. There's a widget set. The widget set defines the tools, the graphical elements that you see on your screen, such as a tab in a window, a tabbed pane in a window. It maybe defines the buttons like Start Shared Session, or this button's over here for running the program, debugging it, and so on. Or it might define, or it will define, widgets for menus and menu entries and so on. And then there has to be a component called geometry management, which determines how you lay out these bits in your window. This is really quite tricky, because when the screen layout or the screen window size change, bits have to be resized and moved around like so, and that's called geometry management. And then there has to be something called event binding, which lets me say that when you click this button, you're going to call the run function. When you click that button, you'll call the debug function, and so on. We call that binding of an event handler to a user interface action. And that's present with all GUI toolkits, no matter what you're using. So as I said, we're going to use this one called TK-Inter, which is packaged with Python, or at least I hope it is. I hope you will have it on your Python at home, and you'll be able to start using that straight away, which is a lot easier than copying down some special graphical user interface toolkit. Python has quite a few, but we're going to use the standard built-in one. You'll be able to read on the web that there's some pretty crummy aspects to this, but parts of it are excellent. One of the advantages of it, it's built in, it's multi-platform, so it runs, for example, on macOS, and it runs on Windows, and it runs on Linux, and it looks a little bit different. You see the buttons and the scroll bars, for example, are different on the different toolkits, different platforms. And it's available in multiple languages as well. It's pretty basic, and it's got a few very non-Pythonic features. That is, it doesn't look like it was designed for Python, for the simple reason that it wasn't designed for Python. The interface tries to make it look like it was, but there are some funny bits. As far as reference information goes, you'll find it's a bit of a problem with TK Intro. It's not terribly well documented. There's a lot of web references that are seriously out of date or downright wrong, and web searching is a little bit dangerous. You might get some junk if you just do Google searching for help with TK Intro programs. I'm going to refer to this particular document, www.tkdocs.com, which I've got here, and we'll mostly be looking at the tutorial, which I'm going to click the tutorial button, and here you've got various aspects of the tutorial. There's a box I want to draw your attention to over here, the show all languages. If you come, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to zoom in that much. If you go somewhere like I want to find out about buttons and click that thing there, there's the button window, and you'll see over here I've got some code to show you how to use buttons. I've got code in a language called Tickle, I've got code in a language called Ruby, I've got code in a language called, what's that one? Perl, and I've got code for Python. I don't think you want all those. I don't think you will be interested in anything other than Python. So what I suggest you do is you come up here and you select Python in that box. And now when you come down here, the only information you'll have is how to display text in Python. So there's Python code, and all that other stuff went away. So that's pretty much all I've got in mind for today, and I'm about to cough, so I'm going to shut this video down in a hurry before I do so. See you next video. Bye.